Okay, and we are live.
So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Pillar 3 public comment session. We're really glad that you've taken time out of your busy schedule to join us and be part of this very important process to ensure that Blueprint for Maryland's Future is fully implemented very successfully. So we're going to start this afternoon with introducing our committee members, our invited guests, AIB staff, and then we will go into a quick presentation before the public comment period. So I'm Kirkland Murray, President and CEO of Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation, and serve as the local workforce development director for Anne Arundel County. I also serve as president of the Maryland Workforce Association, which is the association of the 13 workforce boards throughout the state of Maryland. I would like to turn it over to my co-chair, Olivia.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Kirk. I am Olivia Pearson, College Readiness Supervisor for Prince George's County Public Schools, and I will turn it over to Dave Harper.
Glad to be here, joining from Maryland's beautiful Eastern Shore. I'm the Chief Academic Officer at Chesapeake College, which serves 5 of Maryland's rural Eastern Shore counties. And I will turn it to Robin Werner.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Werner. I am the Director of Teaching and Learning for Talbot County Public Schools. And I will turn it over to Richard.
Hi there, my name is Richard Kincaid. I am an invited guest, not on the committee. I'm the Assistant State Superintendent in the Office of College and Career Pathways at the Maryland State Department of Education.
Dr. Dreyer, would you like to go next?
I would be happy to. I am Christy Dreyer, Vice President of Academic Programs at Cecil College, also an invited guest, and the current chair of the academic VPs for the community colleges in Maryland. I'll turn it to Gretchen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Cheney. I'm a policy analyst with the AIB, and I have quite a few folks from the AIB here. I'm going to pass it to Libby.
Hi, everyone. My name is Libby Diamond. I'm a policy analyst with the AIB, and I will pass it over to Arshia.
Hi, everyone. Arshia Sethi-Snowden, Outreach and Communications Director at the AIB, and I will pass it to Joy.
Everybody, it's Joy Schaefer. I am the Government Relations Director with the AIB, and I'm not sure if Rachel is back from her meeting, or I guess I can pass it to as Emma here.
You pass it to Emma?
Yes.
Emma, are you able to introduce yourself? Okay. I think Emma might have to step away. So thank you to our invited our guests that are joining us for this meeting, for this public comment period. Today, the majority of today's meeting is focused on collecting public feedback and recommendations concerning Pillar 3. The AIB will consider this input as they revise the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan. But before we begin today, AIB staff will provide an overview of the process to update the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan. Afterwards, we will open the floor to public comments. So I would like to turn it back to Joy to give us an update on the process of the updating the comprehensive plan and legislative updates. So Joy.
Great, thank you, Chair Murray. So I am sharing my slides, and I hope everybody can see them. And I just want to give an overview of the purpose and the process of the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan update. The Blueprint Comprehensive Plan guides state and local agencies and entities that are charged with implementing the blueprint, and it sets out specific objectives that for each of the 5 pillars of what specifically must be implemented to achieve those objectives, by what date, and who holds the responsibility for each of those tasks. It's updated annually. And by statute, the requirement is that any updates be adopted by August 1st. The initial comprehensive plan was adopted in 2022. And through their experiences since that time, the AIB and state and local partners have experienced successes, challenges, and learned a good deal. And subsequent changes to implementation requirements and guidance have been informed by those insights and those experiences, as well as through stakeholder and public feedback. Suggestions to the comprehensive plan generally fall into a couple of categories: changes that are allowed within the parameters of the comprehensive plan and that are within the AIB's purview to change. And then there are suggestions that would affect state law, and that would require legislation by the General Assembly in order to make changes to the relevant statute. As we consider updates to the comprehensive plan, because it aligns to the achievement by pillar of defined objectives, suggestions for those updates must directly relate to those objectives. So specific to pillar 3, college and career readiness, the 4 objectives that are addressed in the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan are: 1, that students shall have equitable access and opportunities to become college and career ready, or CCR, and shall meet the CCR standard at an equal rate. 2 is to ensure that students progressing to meet CCR. And 3, implement CCR pathways. And the 4th is to provide high quality career counseling and CTE programs. So each year the plan is updated to incorporate any changes in policy or the law that would affect implementation. This April, this committee received a detailed briefing on legislative changes to Pillar 3, resulting from the past session. So I'll just briefly review these at a high level, but note that the slides provide a level of detail for reference. I'm sorry, I've lost my plan. I don't think I have another slide. So, right, legislative changes this year were enacted by the passage of the Excellence in Maryland Public Schools Act. And that set forth changes to the career counseling program for middle and high school students. And as we discussed in April, the per pupil funding for that program was extended beyond FY26 through now to FY28, as was the requirement that local workforce development boards and county boards report to the AIB each year on the use and impact of those funds. Additionally, the bill requires the AIB now to report by January of 2027 to the governor and the General Assembly on the effectiveness of the career counseling program and to identify long-term metrics determining the program's effectiveness. In terms of policy changes, at the regular meeting on March 25th, 2025, the State Board of Education adopted a revised college and career ready standard policy, and that sets a new definition for initial access to post-CCR and introductory CTE courses. It provides guidance on providing CCR supports to students who have not met the standard. And it revises the math mastery definition to align to the recently adopted pre-K through 12 mathematics policy and recommendations of the Maryland's launch years task force. It also provides different and additional criteria options for students to demonstrate that they are CCR. I've provided in the slide, which I don't see showing up here, but in the slide that's linked in the agenda, there is a link to the full policy. Oh, there it is. Sorry. So there's a link here for the full policy too. And I'll just note that it provides not only the full policy and details, it also talks about the guiding principles and the priorities around which the policy was developed. So in terms of the process by which and timeline for the comprehensive plan update, feedback is gathered from public meetings like these, from state agencies and organizations, and from written comments that are provided through our survey on the AIB website. And that is open through July 11th. In order to meet the August 1st statutory deadline for updating the plan, the board is going to consider changes to the comprehensive plan at their regular meetings in June and July. And then just an overview of the public input opportunities that exist. Advisory committees, of course, are holding these sessions to gather public feedback. Staff have reached out to state agencies, entities, and organizations to solicit feedback. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a written survey available on the website. And these opportunities have all been communicated through a robust and systematic communication strategy. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I hope I didn't go over my allotted time, but I'll go ahead and turn it over back to Chair Murray and Vice Chair Pearson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy. Do any committee members have questions regarding the presentation that Joy just shared with us? Okay. This brings us to the public comment portion of the meeting. So I want to ensure that all of our speakers are aware that this meeting is being transcribed and recorded. We have 11 speakers signed up to provide comment. Each speaker will have up to 2 minutes to speak. And as you speak, you will see a countdown timer in the corner of your video. And when time is up, you will hear an alert. Excuse me, I'm trying to sneeze. I ask that speakers respect their time allotment, and as a courtesy to others who are going to be waiting to speak. So we will announce the speakers in order in groups of 3 or so. And staff will also put the speaker list in the chat. So please be ready when your name is called. Advisory committee members, as speakers give their comments, if you need clarification or have a question, please raise your hand. We will have time to engage with speakers, and it's important that we fully understand each speaker's input. Let's keep in mind the speakers who are still waiting to give comment, and since we have time in the agenda for our own discussion, please limit any questions or comments to our speakers to clarifying questions for a specific point or suggestion. For those participating today, when you are called on to provide your comments, please enable your camera, and there will be a staff member who will invite you to unmute your microphone. And please be mindful to mute any other device that you may have going while you are speaking to avoid background noise. For viewers, if you did not sign up to give comment, there is an opportunity to provide written comments through the AIB's website at aib.maryland.gov. And the survey will remain open for comments. We'll get an exact date at the end. Any questions about the public comment? Okay, so we have 5 folks who are signed up to give initial comment, and it looks like the first 2 may not be currently here, but I will read their names. So we have Brianne, Karen Lewis Young, Kyle Rosato, Brianne Diatri, and it looks like Karen Lewis Young Senator Young is here, and then Juliana Allen, and fifth will be Mary Pat Fannin. And then we have additional speakers after that, and they will be Stanley Whiteman, Elizabeth Zogby, Stacy Farrar, Brandon Butler, Katie Ridgway, and Daryl Hornick Becker. So I will allow our first participant to provide comment.
Looks like, oh, Senator Young, if you are able to, you are up. If not, we can move on. Oh,
Yeah, hi, Senator Lewis Young.
yeah, sorry.
I do not have a comment. I'm just here to listen. I was very involved in trying to make some adjustments to the blueprint to ensure that it is successful. And because I'm very much vested in that effort, in particular this pillar, I'm just here to observe. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. So we will move on to our next speaker who is present, which will be Mary Pat Fannin.
All right. Good afternoon. My name's Mary Pat Fannin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Public School Superintendents Association of Maryland, or PSAM. On behalf of Maryland's 24 local superintendents, I want to express our strong support for the blueprint and our deep appreciation for our partnership with the MSD and the AIB. Thank you as well for your service on this committee. Today, I'll highlight just a few key recommendations with written comments to follow. First, redefining CCR. We recommend renaming this pillar College and Career Preparation. As currently implemented, students who do not meet CCR by 10th grade or are pursuing CTE lack sufficient support and funding. This undermines the equity goals of the blueprint. We urge equal opportunities and funding for both college-bound and career-focused students. And as a personal point, I want to thank Dr. Pearson for remembering our recommendations in your last meeting and mentioning this. It was pretty exciting that someone else read this besides me. For career counseling, we continue to have serious concerns about the uneven implementation and lack of accountability. LEAs are held responsible for CCR outcomes, but often have no oversight of the career counseling provided by workforce investment boards. LEAs must track blueprint funds with precision, yet workforce investment boards face no such requirements. Greater alignment and transparency are essential to ensure student success. Number 3, dual enrollment. We appreciate participating in the AIB's dual enrollment work group and highlight 3 priorities here. First, extend the 4-course cap policy for 1, preferably 2 more years. This is a time-sensitive issue for local education agencies, as we will soon begin our FY27 budgeting process. 2, explore tiered tuition models based on location and instructor funding to expand access and sustainability. 3, create easier certification pathways for LEA teachers to teach dual enrollment classes to allow for increased access to courses and opportunity, particularly for students from traditionally underserved populations. However, there is also a policy disconnect here because community colleges require a content area master's to teach a dual enrollment course, but the blueprint's extraordinary emphasis and salary incentive push teachers to earn their MBC, which is not accepted as a dual enrollment teaching credentials. Thank you for your time and continued partnership.
Thanks so much, Mary Pat. Next up, we will have Liz Zogby.
Good afternoon. My name is Liz Zogby, and I'm here on behalf of the Education Advocacy Coalition, 15 organizations and individuals concerned with education policy for students with disabilities in Maryland. I also served as co-chair with Dr. Wright of the Blueprint Special Education Work Group that recently submitted its final recommendations to the AIB. Thanks for this opportunity to share our feedback on Pillar 3. The need to improve post-secondary outcomes for students with disabilities is urgent. In Maryland, only 41% of working age adults with a disability and a high school diploma are employed, compared to 77% of their non-disabled peers. Without a diploma, the gap is a staggering 45 points. Our public education system must prepare all students, including those with the most significant cognitive disabilities, for life and work after high school. We will submit our feedback in writing, but here are a few points. All students must have equitable access to the state's fully aligned instructional system. The guidelines and principles of universal design for learning, as required by COMAR, should be evident, and evidence-based specially designed instruction guidance should be included in the resources, curricula, and instructional materials in all content areas. We should establish an advisory group focused on CCR for students with disabilities, expand access to CTE programs, develop opportunities for inclusive apprenticeships, and have LEAs report on how they are serving students with disabilities under Pillar 3. Professional development for school guidance and career counselors should include training about ableism. They must presume competence and have high expectations to move beyond the 4 F's of traditional disability employment: food, filth, flowers, and filing. Students with disabilities deserve to plan for careers, not just jobs. Finally, we recommend that all outcome and output measures under Pillar 3 be disaggregated by disability status and include specific targets for students with disabilities. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Any clarifying questions from the committee members? Okay, next up, we will have Brandon.
Thank you very much. My name is Brandon Butler. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Workforce Association, representing the 13 local workforce boards. I want to take the moment and thank the AIB for recognizing that each partner in this work, the workforce boards, the LEAs, the community colleges, each have equal footing and are equally responsible for the success of this program. Workforce boards who, as you know, manage the stringent requirements of federal funding and audits. But nonetheless, there was a term that was, or quote that was from the Anne Arundel Public Schools that was on a call yesterday that said that we are familiar faces that do unfamiliar work. We're in this uncharted territory together, and no partner has all of the answers. And that is why the legislature, in passing the House Bill 504, had continued the partnerships past this FY26 into FY27 and FY28. But we get lost in the minutia and mired in all of the problems that we might be facing. So I wanted to share with you some of the testimony that students had provided during our legislative session. Here's one from Anne Arundel. As a first-generation American with Jamaican roots and raised by a single mother, unfamiliar with the educational and vocational opportunities available in the U.S., I faced significant challenges, but their career coach helped them through those challenges. If it wasn't for my career coach, I would have never met an internationally known sports broadcaster who shifted my mindset about the journalism field. Here's one that's important from Southern Maryland. And she says, simply put, I don't want to graduate high school and not know how to enter into the workforce. Thank you so much for your work, and thank you for allowing me to share my comments.
Thanks so much. Any clarifying questions from the committee? Okay, we will move on to Katie Ridgway.
Hello, my name is Katie Ridgway, Chief of Staff for Harford County Public Schools. The Blueprint is rightly sold as a bold equity initiative, but to honor that promise, its design and implementation must be reconciled. A major disconnect lies with CCR, which is intended to support both college and career, but instead has funding guardrails disproportionately benefiting college-bound and affluent students. Updating the definition of CCR to include career credentials was a necessary step. Thank you to MSDE for that leadership. But students who need access to non-credit courses, credentialing programs, and apprenticeships are still left out. HCPS is leading the state in all three areas, but not because of Blueprint funding. Our success is due to Maryland Leads, ARPA funds, apprenticeship grants, and local county support. The Blueprint has not provided dedicated funding for these career-driven opportunities. If it's in the foundation formula, the AIB knows it is insufficiently covering basics like transportation, let alone high-impact career preparation. At HCPS, our AP and dually enrolled students were largely already college-bound. Our real achievements are with students who previously had no access to college-level or career prep opportunities. But many of these students don't receive CCR funding. This is similar to the impact of school vouchers, where, depending on the study, 75% of funding goes to students already affording private school. Any CCR reform must prioritize students experiencing poverty, which is where the promise of equity must be the strongest. Finally, one more disconnect. To meet dual enrollment demand, we need LEA teachers to teach college courses. But pathways for this conflict with career ladder funding. A content area master's is required, but it cannot be incentivized with state career ladder funding. If we want to expand access to dual enrollment, we need the career ladder to recognize this needed pathway with funding equal to its impact. Our plea is to diminish the top-down prescriptive nature of the Blueprint structures. Give us room to innovate so that we can lead the meaningful outcomes we are seeking. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Katie. Any questions from the committee members? Okay, we will move on to our last public commenter who is present, Daryl Hornick-Becker.
Thank you. My name is Daryl Hornick-Becker, and I am the Director of Public Policy and Partnership. I actually got the opportunity to meet with the AIB last year about the unique BARD early college model. So Libby, Emma, Rachel, nice to see you guys again. And then we also spoke with the Pillar. Nice to see you again as well. But for those of you who are not familiar, 2015 as a partnership between Bard College and Baltimore City Public Schools. Opportunity to earn up to 60 college credits, high school diploma, all at no cost to students and their families. This year, the school served 460 students from across Baltimore City, of whom 90% were young people of color, 87% from low-income households, and 44% were first-generation students. 85% high school graduation rate, with 30 graduating seniors.
Daryl, I'm so sorry. It seems that you may be cutting out a little bit for us. If you don't mind, I'll stop the timer. If you don't mind just starting over and maybe seeing if that'll work a little bit better. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. We want to make sure that we're able to capture all your comments. Oop, 1 second. Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't unmute for a second. Is this any better?
Yeah, it sounds a lot clearer.
Okay. I apologize. Must have been my headphones.
No
I will just start again.
Start from the top. Yeah.
No problem. So my name is Daryl Hornick-Becker, and I am the Director of Public Policy and Partnerships for the Bard Early Colleges. I'm here specifically on behalf of Bard Early College Baltimore, founded in 2015 as a partnership between Bard College and Baltimore City Public Schools. Bard Baltimore offers students the opportunity to earn up to 60 college credits and an associate degree alongside a high school diploma, all at no cost to students and their families. This year, the school served 460 students from across Baltimore City, of whom 90% were young people of color, 87% came from low-income households, and 44% were first-generation college students. The graduating class of 2024 had an 85% high school graduation rate, with 30 graduating seniors earning the full 60 college credits and their Associate of Arts degree. This record of success in Baltimore And the success of our model nationwide demonstrates the impact of dual enrollment opportunities. And we hope that as Blueprint is implemented, it only fosters more of these opportunities. And that's why we urge the AIB to do the following. First, allow local districts flexibility to recognize multiple indicators of college readiness. Things like performance in early college courses, capstone projects, or faculty recommendation provide meaningful demonstrations of readiness. At all of the BARD early colleges, not just Baltimore, we do not use a test-based or single standard in order to offer students college coursework starting in the 11th grade. And as demonstrated, we have seen success on both the high school and college side from our graduating classes. Second, formally include successful completion of college credit-bearing dual enrollment as a CCR indicator. BARD students are doing real college work, and it should count towards demonstrating college readiness. And finally, we urge the AIB to require disaggregation of CCR data by program participation, race, income, and special populations, and publish it annually. That's how we make sure this blueprint reaches all Maryland students. Thank you for your leadership on this issue and for the opportunity to advocate for a more inclusive and equitable definition of college readiness.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Daryl. Any questions from committee members? Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon. No specific question, but a comment that it'd be great to get the transcripts of all these written testimonies for Pillar 3 committee members. All very thoughtful and much appreciated.
Definitely. If committee members don't, or sorry, if public commenters don't mind sending them to aib@maryland.gov, then we can put them together and get them to the committee members. And we'll put that in the chat as well. Okay, then I will pass it back to Chair Pearson to close us out.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of our participants for your time and feedback. And just know that we are very intentional about reviewing your feedback and providing information to inform the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan to strengthen our implementation, specifically Pillar 3, and to ensure that all of this feedback and lessons learned is incorporated into what happens on a regular basis, not just with our committee, but in each LEA partnership that is supporting Pillar 3 of the Blueprint. All right, I'm now going to turn it over to Rachel A.
Perfect. Thank you, Olivia. Just a couple of quick updates about how the rest of this process will work. And we will still continue to accept written feedback for Pillar 3, as well as any of the pillars that anybody would like to share regarding suggestions related to the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan. Those may be submitted through July 11th. We also have 2 more advisory committees that are hosting public input, one this afternoon, which is Pillar 2, and then next week, Pillar 5. So those remain open for people to sign up and or to submit written testimony. Once all of the feedback has been compiled, it will be shared with the AIB board members, and then they will discuss it and determine what updates will be made to the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan at their July meeting. After that, it'll be similar to prior years, where it takes a little bit of time for us to get that all organized and there'll be a summary of what's done at that meeting available, and then it will be the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan will actually be updated and posted and available for everyone to have any of those changes. Are there any questions about the next steps regarding Blueprint Comprehensive Plan updates? All righty. We have a quick celebration. I can't remember, Dr. Pearson, I think you said there's going to be time later for AIB updates. Is that right?
We were going to close with AIB. We talked about having some time for the committee to chat just about
Yes.
public feedback and
Yes.
then close with AIB, but we can rearrange however it needs to be rearranged.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I have time at the very end for a quick update. I feel like it probably makes sense for you guys to keep talking about internally what the committee members wants to talk about Blueprint. And then at the end, I have one more, a couple more updates and one specific one. So I'll turn it back to you guys to continue talking about the updates to the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan.
Okay. Kirk, are you ready for us to discuss the feedback that we received?
Yeah, I think at this time we may want to discuss a little bit of the feedback that we received, but then also make sure that we have an opportunity to discuss any recommendations to the comprehensive plan that this committee would like to make. So I think we would open it back to see if there's any follow-up on the comments that we heard today. I'll start. I really think the comments from the young lady about making sure that there's alignment and equity in this for students with disability. I think that's a very important part with this. I think that, especially as we're working with the career coaching piece of this, is that we're making sure that those students also receive that career coaching and those opportunities to go on to those post CCR pathways. So I think that that is something that if it's not clearly strong language in the comprehensive plan, making that clear when you say all students, I think it's very important that that language get incorporated. So I really appreciate bringing that piece to it.
Kirkland, I'll echo that and add that, not just the requisite resources to support those post-CCR pathways and supports for students with disabilities, but also the tracking and data analysis to kind of underscore what success is and, to improve those programs. And I heard the same equity access resource discussion about non-credit programming, in addition to the more traditional credit college route. Also expanding that access for the workforce students, the career-ready students.
I agree, and I was thinking about, I know we talk about how our work crosses multiple areas, and I'm thinking about the work that our special education students in their IEP and their transition planning once they're graduating. And what correlation does that have with the 6-year plans that we are talking about all students having as they are matriculating through high school and the 2 years post-graduation? And so I'm wondering if that is an opportunity to really get some insight from special ed to see how they are doing transition planning. And is there anything that we can learn as LEAs are doing this type of planning now for all students? What are some best practices that we can potentially glean? I see we've got some additional folks that have entered, so I'm going to pause.
Yeah, so Stacy was signed up to give public comment and joined a little bit late. So I was just going to ask the committee if it would be okay for Stacy to give comment now.
Absolutely.
Okay. Stacy, are you ready? You'll have about 2 minutes and I'll have a timer up to give comment. It should have a little thing that pops up that asks you to unmute. We still cannot hear you. Would you mind saying something else and see? Still nothing.
You have a phone handy? We could probably get you a phone number to call in. Are you getting that, Arshia?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks. We'll have it in just a second.
Actually, Rachel, are you able to?
Yep.
Oh, hold on.
It's loading on my screen.
I got it. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
We'll give Stacy a minute to see if she is able to join. Sorry about that all.
Should we continue our discussion until she joins? I don't want to.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, and I will let you all know.
Okay, great. So, I guess I just wanted to finish my thought as it related to 6-year plan and transition planning, because special ed has been doing transition planning for a long time. And so I'm wondering if they could kind of lend some information support as LEAs are working on 6-year plans and introducing that to career coaches and all of the above. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that I really think that we have a lot of knowledge in our special educators that hopefully they can share.
That's a great point, Olivia, and that's one of the things we're trying to do in TCPS, is finding a way to braid some of these plans together that already exist. One, because we have some best practices already in some of those plans, but also we have a lot of concerns about managing more plans when it comes to all of the demands that are coming forth both through Blueprint and MSDE policy. So, speaking from a small district with folks that are wearing many hats, we're just trying to find the most effective way to do that that's also effective for our students. And we have started to use some funds through grants for a new MTSS consultant to come in and help us with that. One that has worked with the state prior to this, and we have had our special ed department and our student services department join teaching and learning so that we can kind of work on this together. So we're in the very early stages of that. So I completely agree, because we're trying to look and see how can these things blend together where it makes sense. The other point I wanted to draw to was the way we are capturing pathways for students still concerns me, particularly when I look at high schools that are comprehensive, where students are able to have access to everything. I'm concerned about how we capture that information. Working in the CTE world, I've shared before, we had very clear definitions of what we consider a student who is in a program and who then becomes a concentrator in a program. And I'm just unclear of how we will do this accurately to show where our students are. And I'm concerned that students will be led to completing one pathway, and that might not necessarily be what's best for them for a future career. Sometimes having some dual enrollment and some AP or some CTE, a combination of them, could actually be what's best for a student in their chosen pathway. So career counseling absolutely is helping our students in understanding what is best, but I'm not sure that there's full alignment to the pathways with that, if that makes sense. So I guess that's just something I think we need to look into more. And also considering we're going to have I know we've said from the beginning with this that a student is not there's no stopping a student from doing one pathway, but I'm just concerned that that is going to continue to be the message that our school leaders and staff and counselors feel that they do, particularly when we need to address it like on a transcript or at graduation or whatnot. So I just kind of had to throw that in there as well as the comments regarding funding inequities. Like, I think that most of us know that many districts are in a position where they have had to lose positions. So when we're losing positions or programming to meet the financial demands of Blueprint, that is concerning with all these other things that we want to do and need to do as well. So again, speaking from a small district, that we have opportunities from Maryland grants that support Blueprint, but they're often formula funded, and I'm writing grants for very small amount of money that take a lot of time, honestly, to submit and to maintain, and really don't always give us the money we need to do the things that we need to do. So I just wanted to reiterate some of the challenges with funding.
Along those same lines, I just wanted to highlight something that I know we brought up maybe in a committee meeting or another one about the career ladder for teachers being specifically in a lot of districts around the national board certification, and potentially finding a way to incentivize teachers to pursue a master's in content or something else that will permit them to be able to be an adjunct professor in their school to increase the access for students. I think that there is just something else that maybe can be a topic for next year, but as we're thinking across pillars, seeing how we can effectively do that.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson, and all. Just noting that I'm up to 3 kind of draft recommendations based on this conversation. That includes that career ladder alignment between community college instruction credentials, also the 2 equity conversations we've had. Robin, I need a little more support from you. Anybody can kind of click into our shared notes to add detail. So I just invite you to do that. And I see Dr. Dreyer has a hand.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to add related to, I think and I'll speak for the vast majority of the community colleges, we don't expect a master's in the discipline, but we do expect 9 to 12 credits in the discipline. And I think that's very different and frankly makes it much more attainable and a plan to move forward. Because, we have adjunct faculty that have master's degrees in education, but they happen to teach in sciences. So I think that, again, if they have the 9 to 12 credits, graduate credits in the discipline, I think it makes it much more realistic to help them get there. So yeah, I wanted to just add that.
That is such a helpful clarification, because the master's degree is a master's degree then with credits. So someone who holds a master's degree, but then has credits in the specific discipline. And for more rural disciplines, it has shown that it could be fewer, where in the more urban disciplines and the more populated disciplines, it could be as many as 18 credits in the master's and fewer than that. So it is a bit nuanced. But that's a very, very good point, Dr. Dreyer, is that this is a master's plus that we're talking about. Yeah.
And very often, if they have a master's degree, any master's, they already have some credits in a discipline they're interested in teaching. Particularly if you're talking about sociology and psychology, they often have graduate level credits in that. So I think there's some flexibility. We've had to too. I mean, as Dr. Harper and I've discussed, we're rural community colleges. people with master's degrees in disciplines are not, pulling out of trees for us. So we have to be a little flexible and make sure they have enough content to teach their content expert.
I just have to add one point from LEA perspective. We're running out of the teachers on who would be in those positions, because those are the teachers that also should be working with our students who need interventions, right? So we're going to get to the point of, how do we know which teacher should be where? So if they are MBC or they're taking that route to be adjunct, we also have to prioritize our low performing schools and our students who might need the most support. So it's just there's just going to be a point where who gets some of those, the best teachers that we have, because you want to have your best teachers who would be your adjunct as well. So just putting that in there, that's going to eventually be a struggle for LEAs to make those decisions.
And hopefully we'll all have the best teachers in all the positions, right? I mean,
That's the
we're talking
goal,
about these
right?
outcomes for the
Right.
students, and we have the same goals for the teachers, right? They're all going to be the best. I wanted to also bring up another point that we talked about at a previous meeting, and I'm wondering if we want to move it to a recommendation. And that is redefining the definition of college and career readiness to college and career preparation. And so I wanted to elevate that to see if that's something that as a committee we want to kind of put an official recommendation forward. And that would potentially also open up the funding, because if that definition is expanded, then that goes to the funding, then goes back to the definition of what college and career readiness may be, or college and career preparation, to ensure that there's funding for the students, not just participating in their post-CCR pathways, but also to prepare them to become ready for those pathways, if I didn't say too much. So
I would support I would support that we put in a recommendation around that. I think it's very important. I know we had a long conversation about this at a previous meeting. So I would support us putting in a recommendation around that.
Agreed. You all know how I get on my soapbox about that one. So yeah, for sure.
Trying to put language to that right now in goal number 4, if you're in our notes, so you could just take a look at it and edit with me.
So one of the things that I think, at least from the career counseling perspective, that has really helped, and I think that we need to give credit to the CTE committee, is really coming up with those key metrics. It's allowed the LEAs and the local workforce boards and the community colleges to better design their programs. Now they know what they're designing their programs from. Is there anything around the metrics that we want to put in recommendation or anything like that?
I think
Go, Olivia. Because currently the LEAs are primarily responsible for all the metric reporting, and it has to do with how many students are getting visits and how many students are enrolling in programs and how many students are completing, et cetera.
That's not the way I read the metrics.
Talk to me. Yeah.
When you look at the recommendations from the CTE committee, most of the metrics are being reported by the local workforce boards and tracking that. It's how many students are how many students have received assessments by the 6th grade, how many have received assessments, I think it's by the 8th grade, by the 8th grade, and then it's how many assessments are being done in high school and things like that. those recommendations came out of the CTE committee. When you look at the document and they say who's the reporting, most of that reporting is on the local workforce boards.
So for us, the way our MOU works, and Robin can definitely correct me, the workforce board would have to get that from the LEAs. But that model may change where the workforce board is hiring those coaches. And we do have some different models in the state. In some places where the LEAs are hiring the career coaches, then the burden of reporting may be more on the LEAs. Robin, can you speak to that?
No, I agree. I think it depends on the dynamic between that relationship with the LEA and the workforce board. Like for us, our career counselors, we've hired them, they work for us, so we have that data. So we have a system where we report that to the community college and to our WIB, and we kind of have a shared document. It's a Google document where we're sharing our progress and our data on that they can review it, make comments or whatnot before we submit our report. So although it's coming from all three and ultimately has to have signatures from all three, the lift is coming, I think, primarily from whoever is overseeing the career counselors.
Right. I agree with that part of it. Yes.
I guess one of the things I want to clarify with our the idea of changing the language in the definition and saying college and career preparedness, what does that mean then for funding? Like so we're saying that we want to identify students as college and career prepared by the end of 10th grade and college and career ready by graduation. Are we looking at two different things because of MSCE has already had their definition approved, right? Which is by graduation. I just want to make sure I'm clear that these are two different things.
So I am thinking is in the realm of like post CCR pathway, right? So if there is a CCR measure and then students participate in a pathway after they have met this CCR benchmark, is it a post CCR pathway or is it college and career readiness preparation? And that is those are the pathways. And if that's the case, then ensuring that there's funding to implement all of that. That's
Right.
my interpretation.
Okay.
That might be something that we need to put on a future meeting.
Because I
kind of
guess
flesh out.
I guess where, and somebody else can correct me on this, but the legislation is that they are CCR by 10th grade, but the legislation doesn't necessarily say what that definition is. It's is that based off of what MSCE defines it? Is that true? So if we're referring to this as college and career preparation, I guess I'm just making sure that how those are still connected. I'm not sure if I know what I'm asking right now exactly, but I know what our intent is. I just want to make sure that by doing this, it will have the intent that we're aiming for.
Understood. And there maybe just needs to be time to kind of process what's being said as it relates to what it means. I think that in a couple of areas of comment, I heard funding and ensuring there's funding to support students, whether they are participating in college or careers or both, and what that looks like. And potentially, is this modification to a definition going to do that? Is your question?
Yes. So I think that what we have been saying is that or at least I have been saying, I'll speak for myself, is that the timeline of the end of 10th grade of CCR has been to hold LEAs accountable to make sure students are on track to be prepared for when they leave us and go on to other pathways, and then they're prepared when they leave us. But some of the unintended consequences has been that checkpoint in 10th grade is not always attainable for a variety of reasons. And ultimately, students are not necessarily CCR at the end of 10th grade, which has been really emphasized in MSCE's new definition, which has a variety of ways that students would get CCR, many of which are after 10th grade, right? Like having an industry credential or CTE pathway or dual enrollment, right? Those are just a few of those ways. So I think what the last time we were having this conversation, we discussed, like, is there almost another like checkpoint during that time so that we don't stray off of the intention of Blueprint, which is to make sure that we are checking on our students in 10th grade of where they're at. And that way we can develop plans for them if they need to have some sort of support, intervention, whatever it may be, and identify their pathway. But if we're using the same definition, I'm not sure how it changes things other than changing the name.
So, Robin, I think that clarifies one way forward. And this is number 5 now in recommendations on our shared notes, is to compare what we're drafting here with the comments when we get the comments available, because it sounds like you're trying to fund the gap.
Yes.
And because, fund the work to close the gap might be a better way to say it. If there's a readiness gap at the end of 10th grade, how can we boost those students and give LEAs the resources necessary? So just thought, part of that's, it's in draft form for you to look at and for us to compare to the written feedback we received today.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, sorry, I just wanted to quickly jump into and just point out that part of the Blueprint's structure and theory of change also calls for looking at student readiness throughout their pre-K through 12 experience in education. And so it's not like they're getting to 10th grade and having a checkpoint just then for the first time to see how they're doing in terms of reaching college and career readiness, and looking at it in terms of a core set of and a core definition of readiness for what skills they have and being prepared for either college or career. That is something that should be built in, and that, is reflected in some of the targets and measures that are part of the Blueprint. We saw that last summer with the aligned metrics and targets that the state boards and AIB adopted together in looking at readiness for grades 3 through 8 in math and literacy proficiency. So I just thought that was important to call out and remind everyone of that. It's not as if we're getting to 10th grade and then for the first time determining how are students doing in terms of reaching the college and career readiness standard, that this is something that is, built into the Blueprint theory of change and what we're looking to help prepare students and ensure that they reach readiness by the end of 10th grade. So they're not just getting to 10th grade and then we figure out where they are. That's something that we should have a strong sense of before then, well before then.
Thank you, Emma, for bringing us back to that. It's funny because we had a similar conversation in our district today. And I think right now, maybe we're in that situation where we're in between. So we do have students who may right now just be seeing that in 10th grade. At the same time, we're working with students in the other grades so that we are working with them also. And so I think I just really still think that there should potentially be a whole nother meeting to kind of discuss what we're talking about. I saw an image that was produced by MSCE about all the updated CCR measures. And I think that that would be great to also maybe discuss in collaboration around this very topic, and even identifying when some of those things happen. I know our LEA, our CTE programs, they are kind of revising how what courses are being offered when. And so that I know for us is still working. I know CTE is requesting feedback. I don't know if that time is closed on the curriculum for the CTE program. So there's so many things I think that are working around this one point that we've been discussing.
I honestly think where we have a gap with this is using career counseling data to determine college and career readiness or preparedness. Like we are collecting data on students, but truly, like if we look at a student, and I certainly understand Emma's point, we do have data throughout. Like we have lots of data on students. But when we're looking at that 10th grade, and originally that has been based off of MCAP, and I think we've explored all the reasons why using MCAP exclusively is not ideal, which is why MSCE came up with all these other definitions. So MSCE has laid the groundwork that there are a variety of ways to earn CCR. Why aren't we considering using our career counselors to bridge those together? Of are they on track to follow one of these pathways of obtaining CCR? Having one measure of like MCAP is not going to do that, right? Like if we're using career counseling the way we should, then all students would have a plan that they develop over the course of middle school and high school, and we would use that plan to assess if they are college and career prepared. And then if they are being prepared, that data point would follow them to whichever door they're opening. I know we've called that like having many keys to doors. That would show that they are ready to take an IRC or to do an apprenticeship or whatever it is, or do AP. But if our career counselors are doing, and those programs are doing what they're supposed to be doing, we would identify which direction a student's going to go in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, right? And then we could use 10th grade as that checkpoint. I just think that that's where there's a gap for us, is finding a way to use those data points that our career counselors are using. Like we're collecting data and we're sending it out on how many times our counselors are working with students, but what is that all telling us when it comes to a kid becoming CCR?
I agree with Robin. I really think if you're really looking at is our students college or career ready, I think using the data that the career coaches are tracking, that is a better assessment if they're college or career ready instead of using one assessment. Or, so I definitely think that that's the point. And then by the 10th grade, then we just put the bow on the ribbon by giving them those opportunities in those post CCR pathways.
So I have another suggestion. I think the CTE metrics for measuring career counseling, I think that would be great to present at one of these meetings, one of the Pillar 3 meetings, because I think that there are a lot of different methods of implementing career counseling for different LEAs. And so bringing those metrics forward and then providing that feedback, I think would be great. Now, I think that if there's a larger discussion as it relates to how career counseling impacts college and career readiness, I think that may be step 2. But I think step 1 is what are the metrics to actually measure the effectiveness of career counseling? And then if that can have an impact, because right now, all of the metrics are related to IRCs and they're related to something specific, right? It's not just, so there still is MCAP, but if it's like something career related, it's related to a specific career. And so I think that that may be something that also needs some additional dialogue. Like how is that career counseling really impacting these other pieces? And if it is, then how do we use that to kind of inform college and career readiness?
I agree. I think that's a starting point. I think that the metrics are more so analyzing us more as like an LEA, not so much on the individual student right now. And maybe that was just phase one of it, right? Like because everyone is doing something different, although I think we're starting to see some more consistencies and best practice the more we've had opportunities to collaborate. But I think that now that we've had a couple of years to explore this and figure out best practices, then what is that next step so that we are addressing all those things you just said, Olivia?
And I think it looks very different in different LEAs. And so like in the LEA where I work, the Workforce Development Board hires the career coaches. And some of those other metrics are already being collected by other entities in the school system prior to career counseling. And so how do we come together to really make this a measure of career counseling?
Just so folks know, the AIB's career counseling annual report, which is due in a couple weeks, I think is going to give us a really good baseline of where counties are on these metrics. We did use CT committees metrics in our questions, and we asked for data from year one if it was available, and except knowing it might not be, and year two as well. And so I think that's going to give us a chance. It's going to help sort of set the stage of what the expectations are around the data, so we do start to get more apples to apples data across counties. It's going to raise issues if there are gaps and needs and they need more support in TA on how to collect this kind of data. I think it's going to help folks start to think about how these pieces do connect: career counseling, CTE, apprenticeships, all these pieces together of like how are we really sort of building an understanding of a student's academic and career interests together, and how are we guiding students to making choices when they get to high school and then beyond. So I think we're getting there. And I think it'll be interesting to see what sort of data we do get back. So just so you know that is on our radar.
Thank you. All right, so we have 14 minutes left in the meeting. And so is there anything else from the commentary that we want to uplift, either just for general discussion or for recommendations?
So the one area that I think is being missed is really a deeper dive in the professional development of the career coaches, making sure that they are able to deliver career coaching, have some of the certifications that are in workforce development that certify people as career coaches. So I think there needs to be a recommendation around more professional development opportunities for the career coaching. I know that this is something that the Maryland Workforce Association has really leaned into, doing the convenings, our Raising the Bar conference. But I do think that there needs to be more strengthening the credentialing around the career coaches.
I think that's a great comment. And I know there was a couple of comments just around career coaching. And one was around transparency. And then another one was just support of career coaching. And I think our committee has shown time and time again that we are supportive of career coaching, but how it varies from place to place. So just strengthening kind of what those non-negotiables or what those standards are across the state, regardless of how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the comment was about. I'm trying to remember what it was. about the LEAs being responsible for this, because the way I look at this is all three partners are responsible for the success of Career Coach, not just the LEAs. That all three partners are responsible for that. But I think definitely strengthening the knowledge of the career coaches and making sure that they have workforce industry credentials would definitely make sure that students are getting a better product.
I'm glad you just said that, Kirk, because it just reminded me of something and where that might be coming from. When we received our feedback on our career counseling plan, if I remember correctly, and it's been a while since when we received it, but it was directly addressed to our LEA, not to all three partners. And I think, and that might be something small and minor, but I think that that is something that leads LEAs to feel like they are the ones responsible for all the metrics and all the change, because that was a report that showed our areas of recommendation or areas that we should be commended on. And if I remember, when I look at that document, I will find it was directly addressed to Talbot County Public Schools. Now, I believe, Dave, you probably got a copy of it. And I'm sure that we've got a copy of it, but that dynamic of rolling out that feedback that way leads LEAs to feel like they're the ones then responsible. And I don't know if that was also because our career coaches are hired through us. I'm not sure if that mattered in different other districts that have a different setup, but that could be part of that that feeling of that it is falling on the LEA.
See, Rachel Amstead has her hands up.
Yeah, Gretchen and I were chatting behind the scenes here for a second, trying to figure out we understand. In terms of the feedback, are we talking about the feedback? It was about the annual fiscal report feedback?
I'm not sure. I just know it was our career counseling feedback.
Okay, I'm curious about which submission, but we at the AIB make sure to send every communication to all three partners. In the beginning, we didn't have a contact for every community college, but now we do. And we would clearly put at the top that if we had sent it just to Blueprint coordinators and the workforce, that they needed to forward it to the community college. But for the past year, we've had contacts for all three, and every single thing we send out goes to all three.
Oh, they all got it. But and I'll have to look where it is on ours, but it was when it only said Talbot County Schools on the document.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd love to see that. The one thing I'm wondering about is if it was something that pertained to release of funds, that would come to the school system, but typically everything we send out is to all three partners fairly intentionally.
Okay, I'll see what I could find. And I could be wrong. I for some reason I remember talking to our Blueprint coordinator about that I was curious why, because again, when we submitted it, I know that all three of us had to. So I'll double check. I could be misspeaking.
Perfect. Yeah, we'd love to know, because we do try to make sure it goes to all three for everything.
Yeah, but I think there's an opportunity for clarification that it's not just the LEAs that are being held accountable for the success of this program and being measured on this program. It's all three partners that are being measured on this program. So I know that Mary Pat Fenton made that comment that, the LEAs are being held accountable for this. It's all three partners that are being held accountable for the success of the program.
It is, and I do think sometimes when things happen in the LEA, sometimes the LEAs take that responsibility on, and it overlaps with so many other things. And I think that this is just another opportunity for us to kind of highlight that everyone plays a part. And everyone should be collaborative as it relates to the implementation of career counseling. It's not a workforce development thing. It is not a community college thing. It's not an LEA thing.
Right.
It is a collaboration. And I
Correct.
think that I think that there's just always additional ways and times to just reiterate that part of it. Because even in the reports that are due, it talks about like the workforce development may be reporting on something in collaboration with the LEA and the community college. And so I just think that that's just a constant thing. And one thing that we talked about in our district is I feel like when we're talking about training, we all need change management training because this is such a change and a difference in what we are traditionally doing that sometimes when we see and process something, it goes in one bucket and it doesn't need to go there. Like we all need to change what we are doing. Schools and the way schools are implementing programs and the way schools are operating, that's got to change. Our kids are changing. And so we all need some just re-examining of what we're doing and how we can just change what we're doing. And I think we all need it at all levels in all organizations because this is different. This is different. And so we just need to kind of look at it differently.
I agree
Great
100%
suggestion,
with you.
Dr. Pearson. And maybe a great note on which to conclude as we emphasize the partnership and the fact that this is a fundamental redesign for Maryland education in lots of exciting ways. Rachel A. or AIB, I think we have a very important note on which to conclude. Is now the right time for that?
We do, Dave. So we had a couple of quick closing announcements, which that first one will take us right into that second one. We wanted to remind everybody that the AIB Advisory Committee application process is open. A lot of folks are getting confused. There were 2 processes open at once. We do have some board member vacancies, and people could be applying to serve as a board member on the AIB board. That closed last week. We still have the advisory committee member seats open. We have 1 seat on Pillar 3, 1 seat on Pillar 4, and 3 student seats, 1 open on Pillar 1 and 2 open on Pillar 5. But that brings us to a very important moment to celebrate Dr. Olivia Pearson. She has been a foundational leader in the Pillar 3 work and standing up the AIB advisory committees from scratch. For those of us who've been around since the beginning, it was a blank slate. You could do whatever you wanted. And Olivia has been a strong leader and partner and a champion in making sure that perspectives were heard, voices were heard, successes were celebrated, information was shared. And so, Dr. Pearson, we just want to take a minute to thank you for your support and lending your expertise to the AIB and for the leadership that you have taken with the Pillar 3 Advisory Committee, and take a minute to say thank you. We recognize that you are stepping down, but can't let you go without telling you what an important role you played here for this advisory committee. So thank you on behalf of our students and on behalf of our educators and on behalf of our committee. We really appreciate you and hope you'll stay in touch.
Can I just step in to say, nobody, so I have something trivial and something substantive. On the trivial side of things, nobody looks more composed under public pressure scrutiny. I don't know how you do that. Your signal could be going on the fritz. You could have to sneeze. Whatever happens, you seem calm and composed, and that's amazing to me. And on the less trivial side, you have a great knack for seeing the big picture and for helping to bring us back to the big picture, no matter what we tend to be digging into.
So I want to echo with Dave. I mean, I really have enjoyed working with you, Olivia. Learned a lot from you, especially from the school system perspective of this. But I agree with Dave. You always saw the big picture. So hope you're not going too far. Hope you still attend our meetings and come in when you can, when your schedule permits. And it's been a joy getting to know you and work with you.
And somehow you did this and became Dr. Pearson, in the midst of this process. So holy smokes, kudos to you.
Yes.
I second both of them. It's been a pleasure. I've learned so much from you, and think of all of where we came from in the beginning with going through line by line of the pillars and to the conversation that you've led now. It's pretty incredible.
So, Olivia, thank you very much. We really appreciate you and your championship of Blueprint and just of our students and our educators across the state. One other really quick announcement. I think earlier I misspoke when I said which advisory committees were remaining to have their public information sessions. So Pillar 2 is coming up here shortly in just a few minutes. And then it's actually Pillar 4 that is next week. So it's on Tuesday, June 24th at 4 p.m. So Pillar 2 and Pillar 4 are remaining. But what a great meeting. Again, we thank the entire committee for hosting this, for hearing and facilitating the public input, and also for the fabulous conversation that happened here among the committee members. We very much appreciate your insights and thoughtful deliberations.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Can I just say before I end my last meeting that I just appreciate everyone. And this has been some of the most meaningful work of my career thus far. I so believe in the Blueprint, and I am just stepping aside to allow more voices to be heard. And so doesn't mean I may not be back. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a fabulous day, and we will see you soon.
Everyone enjoy your summer and look forward to us convening in the fall.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hey, guys.
All right, stream is ended, recording over, AI companion off. We are done.
Lovely.
Oh, let me get Pillar 4 ready.